We're destroying Iran. We've destroyed Iran. There's a peace deal that Iran is begging to put together every fucking week. Trump's cult eats it up. And yet, real world events are unfolding all around us. And unfortunately for right-wingers, what Donald Trump says can move markets. But ultimately, you can't out-yap reality to this degree. Because eventually, troops are going to fucking die. And when that happens, you're going to be like, how did that happen? Why are troops dying? We're the most powerful military on the fucking planet. How is this taking place?
Overnight, the U.S. launching new strikes on Iran. Retaliation for the drone and missile attack that killed 2 American service members and injured several others at a base in Jordan Saturday. One service member is still missing. In these new American strikes, CENTCOM saying the U.S., quote, targeted Islamic Revolutionary Guard forces that launched those attacks in Jordan. Video circulating online appears to show multiple projectiles raining down from the night sky. The moment that base was hit, 4 injured service members were taken to hospitals in Jordan and later released. Several others suffered minor injuries and have returned to duty. So far in this war, 16 American troops have been killed and more than 400 wounded, according to the Department of Defense.
So gas prices are rising with the tension around the Strait of Hormuz, where a fifth of the global oil supply passes through. U.S. oil is trading at $82.47, up about 4.5%, while the national average for a gallon of regular gas in the U.S. is now $3.98, according to Gas Buddy, a 14-cent increase from last week's average and $1 more expensive compared to when the war began.
I've explained this to you guys already. There's only so much out-yapping you can do, but you can't out-yap how people feel in their wallets. Obviously, the Trump administration, alongside the rest of the world, has tried to keep up with the imminent energy crisis by unleashing their strategic petroleum reserves. But there is going to be a hard limit to how much you can try to manage the imminent volatility. It's at a certain point, everything is going to collapse when people realize, like, okay, market factors are actually not looking at the hard limit with this actual commodity that is necessary for survival. It's going to happen. It's already beginning to happen, regardless, because there's like obviously supply shortages that are compounding, right? And it's going to lead to, and it has led to, an inflationary crisis anyway.
Well, moments ago, President Trump posting to Truth Social with this message on Iran, saying Republicans should add Iran to the Russian sanctions bill. That's what Lindsey wanted to do, referencing the late Senator Lindsey Graham.
It comes after the deaths of 2 American service members in Jordan.
And Lisa, and guys, let me start you out with some breaking news. Air raid sirens are sounding right now because Iranian missiles are inbound for the Jordanian town of Aqaba. Why Aqaba is particularly concerning? It's at the tip of the Red Sea, right where Israel and Jordan come together. So
slowly but surely, the IRGC missiles have been able to successfully take out a lot of the batteries, a lot of the anti-air defense systems inside of Jordan. Jordan is obviously very important for Israeli security. Jordan is basically the last line of defense. In the last 130 days in the Epstein Fury, Operation Epstein Fury, Iran successfully took out the radar installations, the eyes and the ears that the Americans had in the entire region that would play a formative role in the Israeli response, in Israeli air defenses. But of course, after they took out the radars, they started taking out the batteries. They started taking out the offensive strike capabilities, but more importantly, from the Israeli perspective, the defensive strike capabilities. And as of this week, the IRGC has hyper-focused on the Jordanian defenses. Jordan operated as a key hub, says Murtaza Hussein, for executing the February 28 attack on Iran, and also seemed to have specific detail on the type of operation it would be, including the killing of Iranian leaders and attempts at regime change. It would be more respectable to just own the conflict than attempting to deny the obvious or acting like an innocent bystander. This goes equally for the other GCC states that have been involved in the war. This is, of course, in response to Ali Yunus's reporting. Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman Safadi denied publicly days ago that the U.S. has a military base in Jordan, a line that has been repeated by other officials and government media. It's not clear why Jordan keeps denying the existence of a U.S. military base the U.S. built with its own money publicly. And this has, of course, gotten Israel nervous. People in Israel are getting more anxious than usual now, especially after the strikes on the border with Jordan. Amir Bohbat is reporting that the defense establishment is expecting a missile attack from Iran. This could also just mean that Israel is preparing to attack Iran. Israel has made it, Israel put a no-fly zone for drone operators, commercial, civilian, across the board recently. That means they're expecting possible drones as well, beyond ballistic munitions. This is a big deal. As I reported yesterday, the reason why they're attacking Jordan is because they're making it easier. They're making Israel more vulnerable. They're making Israel more vulnerable because they expect Israel to possibly join with the United States of America post-MOU as they did prior to the MOU. Because right now, up until now, America has been striking. Israel's been awfully quiet. Israel hasn't actually accompanied the American strikes on Iran. But Iran is basically creating an environment where they can retaliate against Israel if they see it necessary, if they see it to be a necessity. And that's the reason why they took out the air defenses in Jordan. That's the reason why they've been pummeling the Jordanian bases. And that's the reason why Americans died in Jordan. Now, one might ask the question, why the fuck are American troops stationed in Jordan that are playing defense for Israel? But, you know, I think we all know the answer to that question, right?
Anything that threatens Aqaba threatens Israel as well. To this point,
I gotta pee.
The Iranians have not fired on Israel in this round of fighting. But as you mentioned, an 8th round of airstrikes has now concluded in Iran. Now, as fighters launched from aircraft carriers, Tomahawk cruise missiles blasted off from warships, U.S. Central Command stated that this 8th round of strikes was intended to punish the Revolutionary Guard forces who launched the attacks that killed the U.S. service members in Jordan. To this point, the majority of targets have focused on disabling ports, destroying the ability of port towns to resupply, and preventing the Revolutionary Guard from threatening shipping. Dramatic evidence of that, a tower destroyed in the port town of Khabakar. The U.S. says the Revolutionary Guards used that tower to track ships and attack them in the Strait. Now, since this war with Iran began, 16 U.S. service members have lost their lives, 430 have been wounded.
There's also some additional developments. Iran's getting a little frisky because of the confidence that they have. There are some Iranian analysts that are now talking about entertaining strikes, or not even strikes, but an offensive operation, an invasion, if you will, on Kuwait. And for the record, since the news came out about the 2 soldiers that were died, a third service member was reported to be dead. This is the 8th night of successive strikes.
Give you an update
back
on
and
the
forth.
loss of life of U.S. service members. We reported earlier that 2 U.S. service members had been killed and a third was missing. The remains of that third missing U.S. service member have been recovered. So you're talking about 3 people killed by that strike. And another unfortunate incident, service members were disposing of the explosives in an Iranian attack drone with a controlled explosion. Something went wrong, and another U.S. service member was killed.
God damn.
All of this according to Central Command. This marks the first time the U.S. has had any loss of life since that memorandum of understanding was signed, the memorandum of understanding which is now largely disregarded. The casualties were at the Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, and they are a result of Iran's repeated shots at U.S. bases in neighboring countries. At least 1 strike got through the defenses. Now, the Institute...
I mean, these guys are just straight up dying for Israel. Just make no mistake. Like, there's no clearer example of dying for Israel than sitting in a fucking base in Jordan that is playing a formative role in striking Iran and also playing a formative role in defending Israel. That is straight up what this is. Trump is sending these people and lighting the region on fire. Trump is sending these people to their deaths because he wants to lean into whatever Israel's demands are, destabilizing a sovereign nation that has the capability of fighting back. Germany and Britain are evacuating their diplomats from Kuwait, by the way, since there's some reporting. And obviously the strikes are ongoing. It hasn't stopped. Reports of missile and drone launches towards Bahrain, Kuwait, Erbil, and Iraq. A U.S. soldier was killed last night during the same type of attack in Erbil. There's extensive damage on these bases, and Germany and Britain are evacuating their diplomats from Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. The U.S. has advised its citizens to leave the Middle East region. A lot of indications that massive escalations are being prepared, and Israel is also preparing for additional strikes on Israeli soil as well. Here is Trita Parsi on the issue. Says, to say that the U.S. underestimated Iran's missile capabilities is only half true. Yes, there was an underestimation, but there was also a deliberate effort to downplay Iran's capabilities and silence and deplatform those who early on pointed to their efficiency after the first round of attacks between Israel and Iran. And the reason was clear: to get Trump to agree to a larger war, a media narrative of Iranian weakness, Iran's a paper tiger, it's on the brink of collapse, etc., had to be manufactured. In that context, any acknowledgement of Iran's actual capabilities, which were demonstrated in April and October 2024, were non-permissible. And that's why we're here. That's why we're here. This is reporting from some on the Iranian side. Iran is actively planning and seriously considering a ground incursion into Kuwait to seize the U.S. military base, including Camp Beering, Camp Arifjan, and Ali al-Salam Air Base, and then take 100 U.S. soldiers hostage before quickly transferring them to Iran if the U.S. continues its military campaign against Iran, per prominent Iranian analyst Mahdi Khanalizadeh and former Iranian Foreign Minister Mottaki. I don't know if this is real. I don't know how real this is. I don't know how real. I don't know. If you're asking me, does Iran have the capability to do this? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. Kuwait is perhaps less protected than all of the other countries in the region and has less overall protection. Saudi Arabia is obviously one of the immediate regional actors that could potentially defend Kuwait. The reality of the matter is, I don't think that they're going to do this. I think this is unlikely. I think it's just an empty threat for the most part. But if there's one country that is uniquely vulnerable to something like this, it would be Kuwait. Iraq obviously has its own problems with the Shia population, so they can't do anything about it. And Saudi Arabia has its own problems with the Houthis because that's another front that is opened up when the Houthis flew back from Iran to Sanaa, and the Saudis blew up the Sanaa airport. And then the Houthis responded by attacking the civilian airport in Saudi Arabia and the military air bases in Saudi Arabia, creating a unique security environment for Saudi Arabia, one that they have they've certainly experienced, one they do not want to go back to. The Saudis are too busy dealing with the Houthis, and therefore they're probably not going to send any troops or any military to Kuwait to defend Kuwait. So that's a threat, I guess. Overtime, Spain has dominated both the field and the football, but have yet to score, while Argentina has had multiple aggressive situations, with Spain showing restraint 0-0. Saudi Arabia is in a unique situation because they have to implement some sort of blockade from their perspective on Yemen, because if you have a direct route between Sanaa and Tehran, all of a sudden the Houthis can open up a new route to potentially receive weapons from Iran and become much bigger security threat for Saudi Arabia, especially if they develop capabilities or they are able to re-up and rearm and can control the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which then doesn't just present a unique security threat for Saudi Arabia on Saudi Arabia's soil, but also an additional threat for Saudi commerce, for transiting oil tankers through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So they have their own vulnerability here as well. Khanalizadeh adds, the city that should be evacuated is not Tehran. It is Doha, Manama, Abu Dhabi, and Kuwait, warning that a flood of American blood will flow in the region, with Kuwait being considered one of Iran's principal options for the ground incursion. He says no political border will be safe and that Iran would shift to a full-scale offensive if U.S. strikes continue. I think this is just a threat. Khanalizadeh also warns joining the U.S. in a ground invasion is tantamount to a declaration of war upon Iran, with the Iranian land force prepared to punish any state that participates. Drop site news alluded to Syria letting Iran smuggle weapons through their territory to Lebanon. Do you think the Syrian leader is playing both sides? I highly, highly doubt that. Unless Turkey is playing both sides. But I also highly doubt that. Because HTS, or not HTS, but, Zelensky is an American asset. He's a Turkish asset. He is, woke Al-Qaeda, woke former Al-Qaeda. There's very little indication that they would ever allow Iran to operate inside of Syrian borders. I mean, the whole point of overthrowing Bashar al-Assad wasn't necessarily to develop Syria or anything. I'm talking about like from the Western perspective. They don't give a shit about Syrians or developing Syria at all or allowing Syria to exist as a normal country. Their goal is to sever the land bridge between Iran and Lebanon so that there is one element of the logistical supply chain between Iran and Hezbollah in Lebanon is gone permanently. That is the primary focus. That was the primary goal. That would be highly unlikely unless Turkey decided that they want to, that they want to move a chess piece in some way against Israel somehow. I don't know. But I don't see it happening at all. And I also don't know if this conflict would expand into Kuwait. I don't know if Iran would actually directly invade Kuwait. The Islamic resistance reaffirms its commitment to directly engaging in the battle against the American enemy. Should it continue to escalate its aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran, it will target all American interests and bases in the country and the region with full force and determination. In this context, we would like to point out that the Islamic resistance in Iraq has not carried out any military operations against American bases in Iraq or the region in the past few days. Yeah, there's the Iraqi resistance as well that were lasering American bases. I mean, they killed, I think there was like a French guy that they killed, if I'm remembering correctly. Like they are obviously also an ever-present threat as well. Turkey threatened to provide air assistance to Iran if Kurds invaded the country as a part of a Mossad ground operation, senior Israeli officials say, reportedly what Trump meant when he claimed Turkey was on the verge of involvement in the fighting. There's a NATO base in Iraq, Kurdistan. Yeah. Is this World War III? I mean, I guess. It's not the same as World War II nor World War I, but one could say that World War III is kind of happening already, I guess. I don't know.